Welcome to an exploration of Cleopatra VII, Egypt's last queen, known for her beauty, intelligence, and political skill. This video delves into her rise to power, her efforts to preserve Egypt's independence, and her enduring legacy, offering a deeper understanding of why Cleopatra remains a captivating historical figure. To understand Cleopatra's rise to power, we must first explore her early life and background. Early life and background. Cleopatra VII was born in 69 BC in Alexandria, the vibrant cultural and intellectual capital of Egypt. As a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that had ruled Egypt since the death of Alexander the Great, Cleopatra was part of a lineage that traced its origins to Macedonian descent. She was the daughter of Ptolemy XII Auletes, also known as the flute player. The Ptolemaic dynasty was established after Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC when one of his generals, Ptolemy I Soter, took control of Egypt. For nearly 300 years, the Ptolemies ruled over a powerful and wealthy kingdom, with Alexandria as its thriving center of learning, culture, and trade. However, by the time Cleopatra was born, the Ptolemaic kingdom was in decline, facing internal strife, economic difficulties, and growing pressure from the expanding Roman Republic. The dynasty's increasing reliance on Rome for support created a complex and precarious relationship between the two powers. Cleopatra would inherit this troubled legacy and face the daunting challenge of maintaining Egypt's independence in a world increasingly dominated by Rome. Cleopatra's family lineage was illustrious yet fraught with internal conflicts, often characterized by sibling rivalries and power struggles. Despite being of Greek origin, Cleopatra distinguished herself by embracing the Egyptian language and culture, a rarity among her Ptolemaic predecessors. This connection to her subjects endeared her to the Egyptian people. Cleopatra was not only born into royalty but was also one of the most educated women of her time. She received a rigorous education in the Greek tradition, studying philosophy, rhetoric, mathematics, and astronomy. What truly set Cleopatra apart from other members of her dynasty was her linguistic prowess. She was reportedly fluent in several languages, including Egyptian, which was uncommon among the Ptolemies. Her education and intellect played a crucial role in her later political and diplomatic endeavors. Cleopatra was well versed in the art of persuasion and negotiation, skills that would prove invaluable as she navigated the complex political landscape of her era. Growing up in the multicultural and cosmopolitan environment of Alexandria, she was exposed to a wide array of ideas and cultures, further shaping her as a ruler. Contrary to popular belief, Cleopatra was not conventionally beautiful. Historical descriptions portray her as being of short stature, with a fuller figure, a prominent chin, and a large, hooked nose. Despite these features, Cleopatra was renowned for her intelligence and cunning, which she skillfully employed to influence those around her. She prioritized her ambitions above all else, using her appearance and talents as instruments to achieve her goals. Historians often describe her as both selfish and independent. Yet, one of her most captivating qualities was her voice, which left a profound impact on those who heard it. Cleopatra's voice was said to be so sweet and seductive that it could make men fall in love with her instantly. She also possessed remarkable grace, playing the lute and harp with great skill, and was an accomplished singer and dancer. Plutarch wrote, her appearance, coupled with the rare eloquence of her speeches, and the immense charm that was evident in every word and movement, left a lasting impression on those who heard her. The very sound of her voice soothed and delighted the ear. Next, we will take a closer look at how Cleopatra rose to power. Rise to power. In 51 BC, Ptolemy XII passed away, leaving his kingdom to his children, his 18-year-old daughter Cleopatra and his 10-year-old son Ptolemy XIII. According to custom, the siblings were required to marry to solidify the joint rule. Cleopatra adopted the throne name, Theophilopata, meaning, the goddess who loves her father, and later altered it to, goddess-loving brother, and, goddess-loving son, reflecting the changing dynamics of her reign. As queen, Cleopatra sought to revive Egypt's ancient religion and rituals, reinforcing her legitimacy as a ruler. However, her ascension came during a period of great difficulty for Egypt. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egyptian agriculture, had become shallow, leading to poor harvests. The nation's prosperity, which depended on the annual flooding of the Nile, was threatened, causing widespread famine and forcing peasants to flee their lands in search of food. Amidst these challenges, an anti-Roman faction emerged in Egypt, strongly opposing Cleopatra's rule. Key figures in this faction included the eunuch Pothinus, the military commander Achilles, and Theodotus, the tutor of Cleopatra's younger brother. The goal was to overthrow Cleopatra and place Ptolemy XIII on the throne, allowing them to rule Egypt by controlling the young and easily influenced king. Ptolemy XIII, a boy of fragile health and limited intellect, was entirely under the sway of his tutor Pothinus. Seizing the opportunity, Pothinus orchestrated a conspiracy to remove Cleopatra from power and take control of the kingdom. By 48 BC, the situation in Egypt had become increasingly dangerous for Cleopatra. Facing mounting opposition, she fled to Syria to raise an army, effectively initiating a civil war against her brother. This marked a turning point in her struggle for power. Recognizing that Roman support could be crucial in her quest to reclaim the throne, Cleopatra astutely sought alliances with influential Romans. She began by charming Gnaeus Pompeius, the son of Pompey the Great, though her ambitions were interrupted when Julius Caesar seized power in Rome. In the next section, we'll explore how Cleopatra forged her pivotal alliance with Julius Caesar and the impact it had on her reign. Alliance with Caesar. Upon learning of the unrest in Egypt, Julius Caesar decided to intervene, driven by both a desire to restore order and the opportunity to bolster his treasury with Egyptian wealth. When he arrived in Alexandria, he was greeted by Ptolemy XIII, who wasted no time in complaining about his sister, Cleopatra. Noticing Cleopatra's absence, Caesar summoned her. Understanding the critical importance of this meeting, Cleopatra devised a clever plan to return to the capital without drawing the ire of the Alexandrian populace. Disguised as a fisherman, a trusted friend helped her secretly sail into the city on a small boat. According to legend, Cleopatra orchestrated a dramatic entrance by having herself smuggled into Caesar's quarters wrapped in a carpet or linen sack. When Caesar unfurled the bundle, he found the young queen at his feet, a calculated move that left a lasting impression on the Roman leader. Cleopatra's intelligence, charm, and determination captivated Caesar, and he quickly decided to support her claim to the throne. Their encounter reportedly lasted into the early hours of the morning, and their subsequent romance became the stuff of legend. This alliance proved to be a turning point in the power struggle within Egypt. With Caesar's backing, Cleopatra was able to defeat Ptolemy XIII, who met a desperate end by drowning in the Nile. Pothinus, the advisor who had conspired against Cleopatra, fled in fear, and Cleopatra emerged victorious, restoring peace to Alexandria. Although Caesar arranged for Cleopatra to marry her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, this marriage was nominal. Cleopatra remained Caesar's lover and continued to rule Egypt with his support. To express her gratitude, Cleopatra organized a lavish 2-month journey along the Nile for Caesar aboard a luxurious ship, further strengthening their bond. In 47 BCE, Cleopatra bore Caesar a son, Ptolemy XV Philopator Philometor Caesar, commonly known as Caesarion. This birth solidified their connection and offered hope for a future dynasty, though fate would intervene. In Rome, Cleopatra's presence was controversial. She was derogatorily referred to as the Alexandrian courtesan, and her influence over Caesar caused considerable unease. Tensions heightened when Caesar placed a golden statue of Cleopatra in the Temple of Venus and accorded her divine honors, actions that angered many Romans. Rumors soon circulated that Caesar intended to name Caesarion as his heir, which fueled a conspiracy against him. This plot culminated in Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE. Cleopatra and Caesar's relationship was both political and romantic. For Cleopatra, the alliance was crucial in securing her position as Egypt's ruler, with Caesar's military support enabling her to reclaim her throne. For Caesar, Cleopatra provided the wealth and resources necessary to further his ambitions in Rome, and their union symbolized the strengthening ties between Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra's influence on Caesar positioned her as a significant player on the Roman stage. Next, we will explore how Cleopatra forged an alliance with Mark Antony. The seduction of Mark Antony. After the death of Julius Caesar, Cleopatra's husband, Ptolemy XIV, also died under mysterious circumstances. Although some suspected Cleopatra's involvement, these accusations were never substantiated. With Ptolemy XIV gone, Cleopatra became the sole ruler of Egypt, naming her 4-year-old son, Caesarion, as her co-ruler and heir. However, Cleopatra knew that her hold on power would be unstable without the support of Rome. In search of a powerful ally, Cleopatra turned her attention to Mark Antony, a prominent Roman general who was married to Octavia, the sister of Emperor Augustus, then known as Octavian. Antony, known for his passions and indulgences, was susceptible to Cleopatra's charms, and she skillfully leveraged this to her advantage. Cleopatra aimed to secure his support and thereby strengthen her position as queen. For their fateful meeting, Cleopatra orchestrated a grand spectacle, arriving on a magnificent barge adorned with scarlet sails and opulent decorations. Dressed in luxurious attire, Cleopatra dazzled Antony with her presence, beauty, and charisma. Eyewitnesses suggest that Cleopatra's approach with Antony was different from her earlier relationship with Caesar. She took on the role of a seductive courtesan, a contrast to her royal stature, but one that intrigued the rough and worldly Roman general. Antony, already inclined toward a life of pleasure, was completely captivated by Cleopatra's ability to enchant and manipulate him. Under Cleopatra's influence, Antony granted her many favors, the most notable being his official recognition of Caesarion as the legitimate heir to the Egyptian throne. This significant move further solidified Cleopatra's power in Egypt. However, Antony found himself torn between his duties in Rome and his deepening attachment to Cleopatra, with whom he fathered 3 children. His decision to celebrate a victory in Alexandria rather than Rome was seen as a grave insult to his wife's family. When he sought to divorce Octavia, it enraged her brother, Octavian, setting the stage for a conflict between Rome and Egypt. As Octavian prepared for war, Antony's relationship with Cleopatra began to falter, particularly after the defeat. Antony, burdened by their losses, started to distance himself from Cleopatra. In a bid to secure her position, Cleopatra sent gifts to Octavian and even attempted to win him over, but her efforts were in vain. In a dramatic twist, Cleopatra sent word to Antony that she had died, a ruse intended to provoke a reaction. Believing the news to be true, Antony, stricken with grief, took his own life. When Cleopatra learned of Antony's death, she was overwhelmed with despair and resolved to end her own life as well. Before her final act, Cleopatra made one last attempt to seduce Octavian, hoping to sway him as she had done with Caesar and Antony. However, Octavian remained unmoved by her charms. Soon, she heard rumors that she would be paraded as a prisoner in Octavian's triumph. Realizing that she would be held as a slave behind Octavian's chariot, Cleopatra chose to take her own life. According to legend, she uttered the words, "These wrists were made to wear jewels, not shackles." The Queen of Egypt would never be defeated, before committing suicide. For Cleopatra, the alliance with Antony was part of a broader strategy to maintain Egypt's independence and establish her position as a prominent figure on the world stage. Antony's presence and support bolstered her rule and provided protection against external threats, particularly from Rome. For Antony, Cleopatra was an invaluable ally who provided the resources needed to support his campaigns and ambitions. Their partnership also allowed him to counterbalance Octavian's growing power. However, their relationship eventually led to a confrontation with Rome that would seal the fate of both Cleopatra and Antony. In the next section, we will explore the conflict with Rome and its consequences. The conflict with Rome. The alliance between Cleopatra and Mark Antony set the stage for one of the most famous conflicts in history, the power struggle between Antony and Octavian, which culminated in a decisive battle that would determine the fate of the Roman Republic and the future of Egypt. After the assassination of Julius Caesar, Rome was governed by the Second Triumvirate, composed of Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. However, tensions between Antony and Octavian soon escalated, particularly after Antony's relationship with Cleopatra became widely known. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, was determined to eliminate Antony as a rival and consolidate his power over Rome. Octavian skillfully employed propaganda to portray Antony as a man who had forsaken his Roman duties for a life of luxury and decadence in Alexandria with Cleopatra. This narrative resonated with the Roman populace, who increasingly viewed Antony as a traitor to Rome. Cleopatra became a central figure in Octavian's propaganda campaign, depicted as a cunning and dangerous foreign queen who had seduced Antony and was plotting to undermine Rome. Octavian circulated coins, literature, and speeches that emphasized Cleopatra's influence over Antony as a sign of his weakness, framing her as a threat to Roman values and stability. This propaganda war was highly effective in turning public opinion in Rome against Antony and Cleopatra. By portraying the conflict as a battle to save Rome from Cleopatra's influence, Octavian secured the support he needed to wage war against them. The tension between Antony and Octavian reached its climax at the Battle of Actium on September 2, 31 BC, a naval engagement off the coast of Greece. Antony and Cleopatra's combined fleet faced off against Octavian's forces, commanded by his general Agrippa. Despite their efforts, Antony and Cleopatra were decisively defeated. Cleopatra's fleet was outmaneuvered, and she retreated to Egypt, with Antony following. The defeat at Actium marked the beginning of the end for both Antony and Cleopatra. Following the defeat, Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, where they made a final, desperate attempt to resist Octavian's advance. However, their situation was dire, and as Octavian's forces closed in, both Antony and Cleopatra realized that the end was near. Antony, mistakenly believing that Cleopatra had already taken her own life, fell on his sword, mortally wounding himself. When he learned that Cleopatra was still alive, he was brought to her, and he died in her arms. Determined to avoid the humiliation of being paraded in Octavian's triumph in Rome, Cleopatra resolved to take her own life. On August 12, 30 BC, Cleopatra ended her life, traditionally believed to be by allowing an asp to bite her, though some accounts suggest she may have used poison. Her death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the annexation of Egypt as a province of the Roman Empire. With the fall of Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian emerged as the sole ruler of Rome, soon to be known as Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Now, let's delve into the final chapter of Cleopatra's life, her death and the end of an era. The death of Cleopatra. The story of Cleopatra's death is as legendary as her life, marking not only the end of an extraordinary reign but also the conclusion of an entire era in ancient history. On August 12, 30 BCE, Cleopatra took her own life, a decision that has been shrouded in speculation and legend for centuries. The most famous account, as recorded by ancient historians like Plutarch, suggests that Cleopatra used an asp, a venomous snake, to commit suicide. According to this story, Cleopatra allowed the snake to bite her, choosing a death that was both dramatic and deeply symbolic. However, other theories have emerged over the years. Some propose that Cleopatra may have used a poisoned hairpin or ingested a toxic substance. There are even suggestions that her death might not have been entirely voluntary, with some historians speculating that she was murdered on Octavian's orders to prevent her from becoming a symbol of resistance. Despite the various theories, the exact method of Cleopatra's death remains a mystery, further adding to her enduring legend. Cleopatra's death is laden with symbolism. By choosing to end her life rather than face the humiliation of being paraded in Octavian's triumph in Rome, Cleopatra asserted her agency to the very end. Her death was a final act of defiance against Roman conquest, preserving her dignity and ensuring her legacy would be remembered on her own terms. The image of Cleopatra with the asp has become an enduring symbol of both her power and her tragic end, reflecting themes of love, loss, and the clash between two great civilizations, Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra's demise also marks the end of the Hellenistic Age and the final absorption of Egypt into the Roman Empire. With Cleopatra's death, the Ptolemaic dynasty, which had ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years, came to an end. Egypt, once a powerful and independent kingdom, was reduced to a province of the Roman Empire. Octavian, now the unchallenged ruler of Rome, took control of Egypt's vast resources, which he used to solidify his power and transform Rome into an empire. The annexation of Egypt marked the conclusion of one of the world's greatest civilizations, which had flourished for thousands of years. Cleopatra's death, therefore, not only ended her reign but also marked the end of Egypt's status as a sovereign state. In the next section, we will explore Cleopatra's lasting legacy. The legacy of Cleopatra. Cleopatra's influence did not end with her death. Her legacy has endured for over 2 millennia, inspiring countless works of literature, art, and scholarship. Cleopatra remains one of history's most iconic figures, symbolizing power, intelligence, and beauty. From the moment of her death, Cleopatra became a subject of fascination in historical accounts and literature. Roman historians like Plutarch, Suetonius, and Cassius Dio often depicted her through the lens of Roman attitudes, emphasizing her role as a seductress who manipulated powerful men like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. These accounts, while influential, were also biased, reflecting the Roman perspective on a foreign queen who posed a threat to their empire. In literature, Cleopatra has inspired numerous works, most notably William Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. In this tragedy, Cleopatra is portrayed as a complex and multifaceted character, both a powerful queen and a woman deeply in love, torn between her duties and her emotions. Throughout history, Cleopatra has served as a muse for artists, poets, and sculptors. During the Renaissance, she became a popular subject for painters captivated by the drama and romance of her life. Artists like Michelangelo and Titian depicted her in various scenes, often focusing on her tragic death. In the 19th century, Cleopatra continued to symbolize exotic beauty and mysterious allure. The Pre-Raphaelites, in particular, were fascinated by her, portraying her in richly detailed and sensual artworks that emphasized her role as a femme fatale. Cleopatra's story also influenced opera, theater, and literature, where she was often depicted as the ultimate seductress and a powerful sovereign. Her legacy in art and culture reflects the enduring fascination with her character and the dramatic events of her life. In recent decades, historians and scholars have revisited Cleopatra's life, challenging traditional narratives that often portrayed her as merely a seductress. Modern interpretations emphasize Cleopatra's political acumen, intelligence, and efforts to protect Egypt's sovereignty in a male-dominated world. Cleopatra is now increasingly viewed as a capable ruler deeply committed to her country and her people. This shift in perspective highlights her achievements and the challenges she faced as a female leader in a time of immense political turmoil. As we conclude our exploration of the life of Cleopatra VII, we are reminded of a ruler who defied the odds, navigating the turbulent waters of her time with intelligence, charisma, and unwavering determination. Her story, woven with threads of love, power, and tragedy, continues to captivate us because it speaks to timeless human struggles for power, survival, and legacy. Cleopatra is a figure who has left an indelible mark on history, and her name will undoubtedly continue to resonate with generations to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of Cleopatra. We hope you found this exploration as fascinating and enlightening as we did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might be intrigued by the incredible story of Cleopatra. See you in the next one.